don't you hate it when people say, cheer up love, it might never happen, and you're thinking, well actually it already has happened, you don't know the half of it, buddy. Right, so firstly I want to say thank you to everyone that tweeted, emailed and left comments below my last video. The last video was kind of a heavy topic and quite a personal one for me, where I opened up about living with chronic fatigue syndrome. Seeing the response I got from that made me realise that I shouldn't become just another fashion vlogger, beauty vlogger, tutorials, hauls, all of that sort of stuff. And that I wanted to make sure this channel had something, I don't know, I don't want to say more worthwhile, because we all love fashion, we all love beauty, and we get some pleasure out of that, but I wanted to make sure that maybe my videos could help on a deeper level. So I'm going to make sure I mix it up, so have the fashion, beauty, music, but also make sure I have regular videos about kind of more serious topics. If you've got any ideas, please feel free to comment below, and if I feel I have personal experience with it, that I can talk about it, then I will do. But I'm not going to talk about things that I know nothing about, because that's not going to do any good. So today's one, I'm going to be talking about depression. Now, when I've broached the subject with family members, with me talking about it or doing a feature about it, they have been less than encouraging. I think they worry that it will affect how people see me. Perhaps it will affect my job prospects. But I think their reaction pretty much sums up that it's still slightly taboo, even though it shouldn't be. So I'm going to kind of go against what they say and just talk about it, because the more we talk about it, the more less other it will seem, the less weird. No, I'd be very surprised if you didn't know someone that had a mental illness. Whether you know about it is a completely different thing, but there will be someone you love dearly that is having to cope with something on a daily basis. So I was a bit hesitant about posting this video now, because Kerrang! Magazine is doing an issue which is coming out tomorrow, actually, I think, that is concentrating on mental illness, and I know a lot of musicians have been vlogging and writing tweets and things about their own personal battles, which is brilliant. I can't support that enough, so that's awesome. But I didn't want it to seem like I was jumping on the bandwagon, because let's face it, it's not a wagon I want to be on, it's just something I am on with no choice of my own. So I thought, oh, what the hell, I'll just do it. If you're not interested in my story, that's fine, but if it helps one of you, then brilliant. So I'm going to rewind a bit. When I was a teenager, you know, I had my extreme low moments, but I thought, you know, that's just standard. Just being a adolescent, you know, you got all the hormones whizzing around, you're experiencing things for the first time, you know, like relationships. You're desperate to fit in, or not fit in the coolest way possible. And so any feelings of isolation or pressure or hopelessness, I just put down to, you know, I'm a teenager, hormones, it's just standard, I'm meant to be like this. Reading back in my diary entries of that time now, I think something heavier was going on at the time, but I'll never know whether that's true or not, or whether it was purely my hormones. But all I can talk about is the last few years, where I know exactly what's been going on for sure. I'm currently on antidepressants, have been for maybe a year and a half-ish, I'd guesstimate, I don't know. At uni I had a few traumatic experiences happen, and I guess that probably triggered some things off for me, compiled with the fact that I was having my health issues as well, which often got me a bit down and made me sluggish and everything else which I've spoken about before. And then after uni, I had a series of, I don't know whether you call it bad luck or whether that's just life, but it seemed like it was one thing after another, and I got lower and lower. And then a few years ago I got to a really bad point, and it just got too much to bear, to be honest. Every train journey I went on when I'd left the house, I'd be in tears, because that's the first time I was out the house and on my own with my thoughts, and I felt that I could let it out, because at home I tried to keep it to myself. I didn't want to have to talk about it with people or show that I was going through this. So every tube journey, every train journey, just streaming. And it was those sort of tears that even when you stop doing the tears, they would still fall down my face, and I couldn't stop it. There's nothing I could do to control the tears, and it's horrible feeling out of control. And because of the fact that that's when my emotion would come out, I'd often find that the people I was talking to about my issues were complete strangers. I'd have people come up to me on the tube, giving me tissues, putting their arm around me, and I'd end up telling them some really personal things because I felt I could tell them for some reason. So yeah, but eventually a loved one of mine said, look, I think you need to go and see someone about this, because I was just always getting tearful about things all the time, always low, not wanting to go to social events, feeling doubtful about myself, feeling hopeless. So I went to a therapist in London, and he saw me for kind of just a preliminary chat and just to see where I was at with everything. And at the end of it, he was like, I'm so glad you came to see me, because I'm really worried about what you might have done if you hadn't have seen me. And obviously you know that these therapists, they're not cheap. I'm not someone that's rolling in money, so I was just like, well, I know I feel better already from talking to you just this once, but I can't afford your fees. Luckily, he just said he couldn't send me away and not see me again because he'd worry, so we sorted something out, and so I started to see him regularly. There's just, I can't tell you how much it helped to be able to just offload so many thoughts, so many worries, so many regrets, so many doubts, onto someone that wasn't going to be judgmental, who was hearing everything for the first time with no bias, and he just helped me see where I was being unfair on myself, helped me to understand why I was feeling certain things, helping me understand why I did certain things, and just having that knowledge sort of helped me, I don't know, compute what had happened to me over the last few years, understand why I let it happen to me, and helped me to see kind of routes how I could move forward. And after seeing him for a while, it was the first time I kind of didn't feel hopeless anymore. Started to see that things could get better. And I think that is a really important point to make, because I'm sure a lot of you that do suffer with depression, you have those days or weeks or months where you don't think it will ever get better. It feels like a black hole that you're never going to get out of, and you just don't see a route out of it at all. So, but I want you to know that once you're out of that void, that black space, and looking back on that moment, you'll see that there always was that way. So you've got to kind of remind yourself that in the future you'll look back on that moment and realise it wasn't hopeless. There's always a way to improve it. Not necessarily fix it, because life is, you know, tricky. You can't always fix everything, but you can definitely improve it. So please remember that it's never hopeless. Things can always improve, even if it's just the fact that you start talking to people and sharing your problem. Sorry, I'm talking really fast. I'm quite nervous about talking about this, getting quite sweaty. I think by doing this vlog, I don't want to encourage more people to do vlogs about it. Although obviously it's not a bad thing because it gets the conversation going and people talking and sharing. I want people to talk to their loved ones, talk to their friends, because I know I kept it from a lot of my friends, apart from a select few who had no idea what I was going through, and I thought they'd judge me or feel weird around me or whatever, but it would have been so much easier if I'd just done it. But I'm going to be honest, a few of my friends, you can tell, feel extremely awkward talking about it. They're happy to ask me about how's your stomach today, you know, how's your IBS, all that sort of stuff, how the shits, whatever they want to ask. But when it comes to the mental health thing, they kind of skirt around the issue. They do, how are you in yourself? How are you feeling? ... sort of thing, without saying, you know, how are you coping with the depression or whatever. But I try and face that head on now. Almost go to them and bring it up. Even if I see them being awkward, after a while, if we kind of, you know, be completely open, I always make a joke of it to put them at ease. Then gradually they get used to it, and I think that's the way forward. You know, just making them confront their awkwardness in a way. I remember my friends Dean and Simon, they took me for dinner one night, and I think it was Frankie and Benny's, which was depressing enough, let me tell you. But I just was crying into my dinner basically, uncontrollably. Couldn't really talk, and obviously two guys, they just kept looking at each other, they didn't know what to do. Bless them. I felt awkward for them because it was like, there, you're right, Soph. Do we need to beat anyone up? You know, that sort of thing. And I'm sorry for making you guys feel awkward that night. I don't know what my point was there. But yeah, people will be awkward, but they'll also be the ones that you'll be surprised by their reaction. They just want to help you. Or they'll even say, I've been there. Or my best friend's been there. Or my mum's been there. I think you'd be so surprised how many of your friends are dealing with similar things. And if you just talk to each other, you could help each other through it. I'll talk about loving relationships as well. Obviously, boyfriends and girlfriends, they want to be able to fix all your problems. If you're down, they want to make you feel happy. If you're stressed, they want to make you feel relaxed. Whatever, I don't know, any emotion. They want to be able to fix things. I find particularly men want to be, you know, the one that can be the hero, essentially, the one that sorts everything out, that you can rely on, that will be strong for you, etc. So when you tell them that no matter what they do, they can't fix you, they find that very frustrating. Obviously they can improve how you're feeling, they can be there for you and, you know, try and take your mind off it and that sort of thing, but they can't fix it. And their frustration can then come out in ways that really don't help the situation. I think you've just got to show them though that you appreciate their efforts, that you're aware that they do try and make things better for you, but there's only so much they can do. They can't, I don't know, they can't take that bit out of your brain. They can't, you know, sort out the chemical imbalance that's going on. They're not superhuman, but that will be something that will probably come up if you're in a relationship. But you know, they say in sickness and in health, and this is a kind of sickness, this is an illness. So you just got to try your best to work your way through it. It won't be easy all the time, but it's just part of life for many millions of people. I don't want to talk about this too much because I'm going to do a whole other vlog on this, but having depression can really affect your confidence. I think when you've got depression, you don't want to go out, you don't want to see people, you don't want to have to put on that brave face necessarily and be chatty and, you know, try and be fun to be around. So you end up staying in all the time, and the more you stay in, the more scary it is to go out. And I think you end up thinking, I don't know how to be sociable anymore. I don't know how to go to a party with people I don't know and kind of get on with new people. And you're worried that your people are going to see that, you know, you're mental or boring or miserable. Or in terms of being on antidepressants, now my family, we're not people that go on pills for the sake of it. If we're a bit ill, we just try and work through it and get better on our own. And I've got to say, I didn't like the idea of perhaps being reliant on a pill, and being a bit independent and stubborn. I also thought, I want to work through it on my own. I don't want to have to go and see people for help, which is fine to a point. I think it's important as adults we learn to deal with the ups and downs in life, because that is part of being a human. You know, bad things happen. We've got to find our coping mechanisms, and obviously life would be dull if we were happy the whole time. You only appreciate the good stuff so much because bad stuff happens as well. So I wouldn't want to completely cloud all of that, but it got to the point where something really bad might have happened if I hadn't gone for that extra help. So my parents for many years, I don't think they wanted to see it. I guess they don't want to think that their daughter is unhappy and they can't do anything to help. Maybe because I hid it so well as well, they weren't aware of the extent of it. We're quite sneaky, people with depression. I think we're quite good at hiding it if we want to. But anyway, what I was going to say is Mum would always use the thing that a lot of people use, which is, oh, think how lucky you are. You've got a roof over your head, you've got food on the table, you've got a loving family, etc. Think you could be starving in Africa or in drought in the war zone, etc. Which is accurate, which is true completely, 100%. But that's not how it works. I was fully aware how lucky I was. I knew how good my life was compared to many, but I still was extremely unhappy. And when people say that, it's not helpful, because I don't know, it just makes you feel like you're being selfish for having depression, for feeling sad. But it's not something you can help, so you shouldn't feel selfish for having those feelings. It's out of your control, because obviously you wouldn't want to feel like that if you didn't have to. But saying that, I understand why they do it, and I would probably do the same with my daughter to try and make her feel better as well. In terms of things that can help, okay, as I've mentioned, therapy, that would be the first thing I would try actually ahead of antidepressants, because talking through stuff and working through stuff, it feels so good, and it's so nice not to have to work through things in the night like I used to, you know, almost argue with myself about things that had happened. Being able to actually vocalise what was going on in my head meant that I didn't have to obsess about it anymore. And if you can't afford, you know, to go private, you can do it on the NHS, but obviously there is a bit of a queue quite often with most things on the NHS, so you've got to weigh up your options there. Also, I know this is pretty obvious and maybe a bit straightforward, but going for a walk really does help. Fresh air for one is a good idea, but I find you can work out things a bit better when you're walking. You can, I don't know why it works, it just does work. And it's not good to stay in your dark, dingy room, you know, festering in your own, you know, self-pity. It's better to get out in the fresh air, get that vitamin D, and get the muscles moving, and, you know, see wonder of nature and all of that. It's quite good really, isn't it? Meditation, I've got to admit I haven't done this as much as I should, but it is really worth looking into. You can download apps, there are things on YouTube, there are CDs you can buy, but just putting aside 20 minutes a day to do that, maybe in the evening before bed, or, well, you can do it twice, that's even better, but try and do that. It will just make you more relaxed, make it easier to sleep, and just give you a break from obsessing about everything for a little bit, because you kind of just empty your mind and go to somewhere a lot more lovely. I keep seeing a thing about mindfulness as well. A lot of people are blogging about that lately, so I think that's something I'm going to look into as well. I'd say forcing yourself to be sociable as well is a good thing. I wasn't very good at it for a time. I would lock myself away, and I still do to an extent. But I try and push myself to catch up with my friends, generally ones I'm really comfortable with. So I can remember that, you know, even if I am in a bad phase of it, I can still laugh. I can still enjoy other people's company, and I can still be alright to hang out with. I really wanted this to be really succinct, and I should have written notes, but I just wanted it to come out as I was thinking it. But I hope I've covered everything I wanted to cover. I wonder if there's still an element of taboo because of the slang that we use today. We still say like, oh, she was a right mentalist, or she was batshit crazy, or she was a psycho, whatever. Like, I don't get offended if people use that language, I probably use it myself, but when you think about it, that can't do any good in terms of people feeling like they can talk about their own mental illnesses. Like, I know I can function well in a job, I can have a normal conversation, I don't make irrational decisions about most things. The only thing that is irrational, I guess, is the fact that I feel sad when things are actually not too bad. I find it easier to notice the negatives in myself and in my life, and it'd be nice to be able to be positive. That's another thing. You know, people are always going on about PMA, and writing these really kind of enthusiastic quotes on their Instagrams and Tumblr about positive thinking and good attitude and striving and all that sort of stuff. I used to think, oh God, but it actually does work. If you kind of make yourself smile and you try and think of the positives each day, it does make a little bit of difference rather than dwelling on the bad stuff. And I have found recently that has made a lot of difference. And even doing things that, you know, are on your list of things you want to do in your life, like say doing a bungee jump, or going to that city that you've always wanted to visit, or that play in London that you've always wanted to see. Just doing little things like that can remind you of like the good things about life and how great it can be. One of my worries about, you know, celebrities and stuff talking about this is I hope that the kids that idolise these celebrities don't think that, oh, I could be sharing something with these guys if I was depressed too. We'd have something in common, or something to talk about, or I'm like them because I have it too, because this is not something fun to have. You should never want anything close to this. And just being sad isn't depression. We all go through sadness in our lives. It's a fact of life. It's sustained sadness and feeling of hopelessness. You know, unable to sleep because of it. For me, my hair started falling out and thinning. Just the inability to cope with the sadness, I guess. But all I'm saying is, if you've genuinely got it, and you know you think you need help, seek that help. But this is not a cool group to be part of if you have it. I know a lot of people will probably think that I'm oversharing and why is she talking about this, and they may be right, maybe I am oversharing a bit and I might regret it. This might be used against me in the future, who knows. But like I said, I think almost pushing it in people's faces makes them deal with their own awkwardness about it. This is a bad analogy, but you know when people that have disfigurements or disabilities, they always say that they hate people staring, they hate people whispering, and they much rather people came up to them and asked them questions about, you know, their physical appearance or whatever. And I think it kind of goes the same with mental illness. People should just ask questions, and if the person doesn't want to talk about it, then that's fine. They can just politely say, I'd rather not, but they might be really open to discuss it, and you can both have a very non-awkward conversation about it, and one person gains an understanding and the other one feels a relief and a release of being able to share their story with someone. That can only be a good thing, can't it? I'm in a relatively good place at the moment too, so I thought now's a good time to kind of talk about it and show people that things do and can get better even if you're at absolutely rock bottom. I always describe depression a bit like it's like wearing an all over, I don't know, bodysuit that's sometimes completely black. You know, it completely takes over you, and it's so bad that people can see it. And then other times the suit is translucent. It's still very much there, still like consuming you, but you can see through it. There's some light there, you can function, you can live every day, and people necessarily don't notice it. I'm in that stage at the moment, I guess, where, you know, it's still there, still at the back there ticking away, but I'm having some fun times. I'm enjoying work again, enjoying the summer, and, you know, hopeful about the future. So please don't ever give up. Do you know what? I really haven't said everything I wanted to say, so I'll probably do another post about this, but if you can relate to any of the things I've said today, or want to talk about it more, or have any ideas of future vlog topics, more specific points perhaps, then leave them below. And obviously get in touch if you want to. I'm always on my email or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. I'd love to hear from you. Hopefully this hasn't actually been a downer of a post. Hopefully you can get something positive out of it and see that at the moment I'm doing all right. I'm finding ways to cope with it a lot better, and you know, today's a relatively okay day. Long may it continue, and best of luck to all of you on the same road. Yeah, that's all I can say. Try smiling. Bye.